All right, now here's the underrated.
That's better.
Hey everyone, welcome to the top 10 list. Welcome to my top 10 underrated animated films. Okay, I gotta just start off the bat with this. This was a hard list to make because it's hard to differentiate what's underrated, what's not underrated, what okay, it's because there's some movies people call underrated, and I don't think they're underrated, or at least not right now. They're not underrated because there's some movies a long time ago that didn't do successful in the box office, but then it got like this cult following, and now it's like a praised movie. And there's just a lot of movies I consider putting on this list, but I'm like, they were once underrated, but they're not underrated anymore. Like an example, The Iron Giant. That is a great movie. It bombed at the box office, but now everybody knows The Iron Giant is. Everyone loves that movie. Everyone I've ever mentioned that movie to, people love it and praise it. I don't think it's underrated anymore. Maybe like 20 years ago it was underrated, but I don't think it's underrated anymore. Another one is The Prince of Egypt. Again, that was a movie that not a lot of people talked about like 15, 20 years ago, but again, every time I bring that movie up, people love it. They consider it one of the best DreamWorks movies. And I'm like, I don't know, like, it's not really underrated anymore. There's just certain films, as time passes, it's like not underrated anymore. So I really had to think about like what films still, as of now of 2024, I think are still underrated. They're not getting as much appreciation as they should, and not enough people are watching them. And I don't know, that's just what I think. And there's a lot of animes I could have gone into, but again, a lot of anime fans would just be like, no, 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 that movie's very well praised in the anime community. So again, super hard list to make, but I tried my best. So top 10 underrated animated films. Let's go. Starting at number 10, Secret of Nim. Yes, this movie, like Iron Giant and Prince of Egypt, is getting more love, but still not enough. I've met a lot of people who've never heard of it, who've never watched it. Some people are like, oh, is that a Disney movie? I'm like, no, 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 no. It's a Don Bluth movie. But even Don Bluth himself is a very underrated director. But I still think The Land Before Time and American Tail and even Anastasia get a lot more praise and a lot more love, and more people know about those movies than The Secret of Nim. Secret of Nim, I think, is still a hidden gem. I think it has brilliant characters. It's so dark. Definitely one of the most darkest and grittiest and raw animated films. I don't know how it got a G rating. This is like a borderline like PG-13 rating. Like it gets bloody and fucked up. The designs are incredible, especially the designs like the Great Owl and Nicodemus. I love the story of this mouse who wants to move her family because she needs to save them because it's moving day and their house is going to get destroyed and everything they know and love is going to get killed. But her little boy is sick and she can't move them, so she needs the help of the rats and stuff. And it's such a great and thought-provoking film and a beautiful story about a mother's love, and just I think this movie's incredible. I think it's fantastic, and I think it needs to be up there with some of the greatest anime films of all time. Coming at number 9 is 9. It was not funny, but 9. I think this movie's super underrated. I think, again, more people are starting to like it because I think it's on Netflix now. More people are starting to watch it. Holy shit, when this movie came out, no one saw it. I saw this movie in theaters with my sister. We went to a showing of it, and it was like empty. It was me and her and like 2 other people. No one saw this movie. I think people thought it would look too weird and too crazy and too fucked up and shit. And it is dark. It's disturbing. It's not really a kid's movie. It's a lot more for an older audience. I think it's great. I think it's smartly written. I think it has interesting characters, a very good voice cast, stunning animation, and the ending is so profound and just it's very relevant of a film today, and I'm glad more people are getting into it, but I think more people need to watch it. Super good film. Number 8 is Sinbad. Sinbad, the anime film. This movie is super fun. Again, it came out, nobody fucking cared. Nobody watched it. No one gave a shit about the Sinbad movie with Brad Pitt and Catherine Zeta-Jones, Michelle Pfeiffer. This is a fun movie. Like, it's an enjoyable fun, but it's also got such lovable characters. These characters are enjoyable to watch. Like, I love Sinbad in this movie, and I love Captain Zeta-Jones' character. The villain, Michelle Pfeiffer's character, the animation, and how she, like sinks her body into objects and stuff. It's so creative. This movie is so ballsy and out there and so like artistic and abstract and a lot of things. I'm just like, man, this movie was ahead of its time, and no one talks about this movie, and no one gives a rat's ass about this movie, and they should. It's a lot better than some of the fucking DreamWorks movies we're getting now. So check out Sinbad. Number 7, Wolfwalkers. This movie came out a couple years ago. No one talked about it when it came out, and still no one's talking about it. Very deep, fantastic character study. If you are a huge fan of this sort of animation style, like watch what was that, Song of the Sea? If you watch that movie, and if you're into that sort of style and sort of like metaphorical storytelling, this is definitely a movie for you. This is actually better than Song of the Sea, actually. Definitely check it out. Super underrated. Number 6, Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron. Again, this one is getting a little bit more love because it's on streaming services. More kids are getting into it. Very deep movie and a very like quiet movie. It's more of like I love that it's like a calmer movie. It's not like this like action packed, or because it's a story about a horse and the journey this horse goes on. And my God, it's like it's almost as gripping as Warhorse from from Spielberg. But I really like this movie. I liked how it has atmosphere, and I love how it takes its time. I love that there's a lot of character interactions and story interactions with no dialogue, and you just have to go based off feeling and emotion and the music playing to understand what's going on. And I respect how this movie took its audience seriously and treated the story maturely. Yes, there's silly moments and moments for kids, but I think this movie is damn good and very underrated. Number 5 centimeters per second. I had to do the pun again, I guess. 5 centimeters per second. Even with anime fans, I think this is underrated. Because Your Name is an amazing movie directed by the same director, Makoto Shinkai. Even Suzume. I still think just public-wise, Your Name and Suzume need more love. But the anime community loves that. But 5 centimeters per second, even anime people still have not seen this movie and haven't watched it. And I'm like, man, this is like the first masterpiece Makoto Shinkai directed. Like, yeah, Suzume, Your Name are brilliant films, but this one is like his first one. It's such a beautiful story about this young love that can just never be. And it's about the troubles of a long-distance relationship, and it's just so heart-wrenching to watch. Like, this movie is, you better get the tissues, and you better be having a bad day to watch it. Like, this movie, if you're having a happy day, man, this movie will make your mood go down the shitter, because it is a depressing movie, but it's beautifully done, beautifully animated, and the music will stick with you for days. Fantastic film. Number 4, Titan A. Titan A is a great movie. Again, it's another movie from my childhood. I saw it in theaters. And again, my dad took me to see this movie in theaters. And I remember seeing this movie, and nobody was in the theater. It was like me, my father, and like 7 people. And I enjoyed it. I think it's a cool sci-fi movie. It's a cool action movie. It's got a great cast. It's got like Matt Damon, Drew Barrymore, other people that I won't mention. And yeah, there's some dated stuff, dated humor, dated visuals, but I still think that's really cool. Again, it's more of a movie for an older audience because they talk about some very scientific things and it's very technical and stuff. I could see some kids watching it and being a little bored, but I think it's pretty cool. I think it's a little grimy and I enjoy it. Number 3, Adventures of Tintin, the Spielberg one. This movie just came and went. I remember when it came out, people really enjoyed it, and no one talked about it ever again. And I think it's because this style of animation is like extinct now, this motion captured stuff. And anyone who talks about like motion captured animation movies, they pretty much only go to Polar Express, which is like a lot of people's favorite Christmas animated film, which I love too. I think it's a great movie too. But Tintin is so fun. It's so great. It's so energetic. It's bombastic. It's got a great cast. It's like It's literally the cartoon just on the screen, but it's very Indiana Jones-esque. It's a better Indiana Jones movie than the Dial of Shit. But yeah, I never understood why this one just didn't get more love and people put it on like top lists because it's pretty fucking awesome. Number 2, Batman, Mr. Freeze, Sub-Zero. I wanted to go with the Batman movie, and again, I could have went with Mask of the Phantasm because more people need to watch that movie because it's probably the greatest animated Batman movie ever made. But every Batman fan I've ever met knows that movie and praise it, and even non-Batman fans know that. That movie's gotten more love over the years. But Batman, Mr. Freeze, Sub-Zero, still no one talks about it. And it came out literally just after the Mask of the Phantasm. See, Mask of the Phantasm got its cult following, but this one has no cult following. No one talks about it. No one gives a shit about it because it's a Mr. Freeze story. There's no Joker. There's no crazy new character, crazy twists. It's just a Mr. Freeze story about Mr. Freeze wanting his wife back and, him battling Batman and Robin and stuff. And it's basically a movie about good versus anti-good because Mr. Freeze is not really a villain in the movie. I love this movie. I think it's almost kind of like an 85-minute episode, but like a really fucking gripping episode. Because every episode of Mr. Freeze was always my favorite in Batman the Animated Series because I loved that show because it's Batman done perfectly, and seeing a whole movie about Mr. Freeze and his character and his dynamics with Batman is always so interesting. And I really enjoyed this movie. I've always loved it, even as a kid. I remember I had the VHS tape of this movie, and I always loved watching it. And still to this day, I love watching it, and it needs more love, especially from you all Batman fans. Number 1 will always be number 1. I will always say it's the most underrated animated film. It's The Rescuers Down Under. It's The Rescuers Down Under, man. Like, it came out in the biggest time period of Disney Renaissance. And it is the most unknown, though. Like, anytime someone's like, oh, Disney Renaissance, Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Lion King, and Pocahontas, Mulan, Hercules. And people even talk about the underrated Hunchback of Notre Dame. People will say that's underrated, but no one talks about The Rescuers Down Under. The most underrated Disney film I've ever watched, and still to this day is super underrated. A lot of people, every time we even talk about The Rescuers, they're like, oh yeah, that mouse rescue movie. And a lot of them think of the original one. Like, the original one, I think, did better than the first one, even though it's not that great. The Rescuers Down Under is like, the scope, the size, the story is so great. Bernard and Bianca are fucking hilarious in this movie. John Candy is in this movie. He's super good. And just George C. Scott is the poacher, and every scene with the golden hawk, the golden eagle is so cool. And I love the simple rescue story of them trying to save this kid and stuff. And I wish they made more rescuer movies because I love to go on more journeys with Bernard, Bianca, and rescuing these kids from these crazy people who kidnap them. It's so interesting. And you could debate that the first one's underrated too. I always thought the first one was a little because there's a lot of dumb things in that movie, but this one is such an epic adventure story. And even as a kid, I loved it. And still to this day as an adult, I still think it's awesome. So yeah, that was my top 10 underrated animated films. Let me know in the comments below. Do you agree with this list? And give me your top 10 underrated animated films. Comment below, let me know. And as always, for this video, please like and subscribe to this channel. Enjoy the dark side.